Well, good Monday morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. I am Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning.
Good morning.
Let them know what
Happy
they're in for.
Monday. Let's kick this week off. We'll get into a bit of everything. We've got some NFL news. We'll run down football, college football, pro football. We'll talk basketball a bit later with our boy Snacks from Hits 93.1. Plus, he is the best basketball referee around, and we want to get him while we can before the NBA comes and snags him. And we'll talk wrestling. We'll talk World Series. We'll talk a bit of everything. And if you want to jump in, you can anytime by texting or calling in at 661-842-2000.
I say the NBA can't have him, dagnabbit. He's ours.
Right.
But then again, I would love to see him on an NBA court one of these days. He definitely deserves it. And with some of these weird calls that we saw over the weekend, not just in the world of the NBA, the NFL and the NCAA had their own as well. We need some new zebras. I think that's what we need. We need some new zebras. It is what it is. It's time.
It's bad when you're watching a game and you already recognize that is not a good ref, and I don't want him in my game.
Exactly. When we know you by name, there's a problem. And honestly, I kind of felt bad for Pittsburgh Steelers fans yesterday. Not saying you guys lost that game because of referees, because that's not the case. But there were a couple calls where I was like, really? Including that last touchdown to Roman, which, fortunately for the Steelers was given to them at the end of the game. But
that push off,
the push off, the push off with Dable. I understand why he was angry. I'm like, come on, you got to let that go. These guys are fighting each other. He made a great play. Let it go, Zebra. But of course, he probably already had his flag in his hand and decided, I'm going to throw it. It is what it is. We'll get to all that by and by. There's plenty to talk about in the world of sports, including on this Monday, because it is a Speak Your Truth Monday. And I'm going to start us off. Me and Sparky, obviously, we're at odds on Sunday. Neither of us actually texting each other, giving hate.
And I didn't make a bet this time, so
no.
I'm like,
thank God.
I've lost enough bets.
God dang. My Speak Your Truth Monday, and again, feel free, text or call in 661-842-2000 anytime during the show, except for our conversation with Snacks. It's the only time we're not going to be able to throw you on. But at any point in time between now and 8:30, we would love to hear from you. 661-842-2000. Come on the show, speak your truth, air your grievances against your teams, all of your overreactions or just reactions in general. We'd love to hear from you guys. But my Speak Your Truth Monday, Sparky started us off last week by saying he was done with Tua. And I completely understand. I completely get it. Maybe not against this game, but I completely get it. Because my Speak Your Truth, I'm going to have to parrot what Sparky said last week. I never want to see Kirk in a Falcons uniform again.
You like that?
Ever. You're done. You're done, kid. And you can't blame the offensive line. They only sacked you once. You can't blame the injury. That was last year, like you like to do all last year, saying, oh, I played with an injury. That's why I threw 7 interceptions in a row. No, you're trash. That's what it is. You're awful. The only coach that could actually get anything out of you is Kevin O'Connell. At this point, we might as well trade you over there for Cameron Wentz, or for Carson Wentz. I apologize, because at least he would give us a chance to win a football game. I am over this Kirk Cousins thing. I don't want to hear another person come out and say Kirk Cousins deserves a starting job. I am done. I'm done hearing everybody say, well, Kirk Cousins might be a better quarterback than Michael Penix. Shut it. Clearly, you have no clue what you're talking about in today's game. If we were talking about Kirk Cousins 5-6 years ago, sure. When he was 32 and tearing up the league with the Vikings, 100%. I'll give it to you. But this year, last year, I never want to see this 37-year-old man don the black and red again. If this man tries to lead this crowd in a swag surf one more time, I hope his own teammates just take him off the field. I'm done. I'm over this. And for those of you who are wondering, it's not that bad. We lost 34-10. Was that the final, Sparky?
Yep.
34-10 to the Miami Dolphins. Arguably one of the, and again, no shots towards your team, buddy, but the worst rush defense in the league, and we couldn't get over 30 yards with Tyler or Bijan. You want to say, let's look at the statistics in the game. Let's just put it this way. Kirk Cousins went 21 of 31 with 173 yards, a 35.4 QBR, and an 81 passer rating. The offense went 2 of 11 on third downs, 49 total plays, 213 yards on 11 drives. I don't know math very well, I guess. But last time I checked, that means the Atlanta Falcons maybe had 4 plays a drive. Maybe 4. So a 4 and out every single time. They handed the ball to Tua and say, here you go, buddy. Throw another touchdown on us. And for those of you who are saying, well, the defense looked awful. Of course they did. They were on the field for almost 40 minutes. I'm done. I never want to see Kirk Cousins in another Falcons uniform again. I really don't. Now, before I get to the next part of this Speaker Truth Monday, Sparky, let me hear what you thought of the game. Obviously, your Dolphins look fantastic on offense. Jalen Waddle had a fantastic game, and you did so without even needing to lean on A-Chain for 80 plays.
Yeah, it was the first game we got Jalen right back. I was happy, obviously, but going into the game, I was like, all right, Tua comes out in the pregame with the swollen eye.
That
and I'm
was
like,
weird.
what the hell is going on now?
Was I the only one that kind of felt like they claim it was an illness?
Yeah.
They claim it's an illness. But am I the only one that sat there and said, no, I think what Tua's lineman decided
That's
to say.
And I was telling my dad the whole game, I was like, if he's going to play like this with one eye,
They need to pop him every single eye.
him every week. I mean, because he looked like the Tua of old. And I mean, I can give it up to our rush, but really I had to put it out for our rush defense. I mean, they've been ripped apart, and a couple of linebackers stepped back up. I have to give out props to my boy Jordan Brooks, because he's been the sole tackler on our team. And I was even telling in the pregame, I was like, dude, if we can't stop the run, this game is going to end early. And luckily they stepped up. But yeah, I can see the momentum change as soon as Kirk Cousins, that first pass where he overthrew by 10 yards high. I'm like, who is he throwing to? Shaq? And it looked like Tua last week. So, I mean, I can't really bash on anything. It looked like an actual football team this weekend.
I mean,
and I would think Atlanta, but, they're injury prone as well. So, I mean, like, obviously with Waddle, we had no tight ends. Both of them were out before the game started. Tua came in, I'm sick, and my eyes swollen, had me nervous as hell, but a win's a win. I'll take it.
Mhm.
And we have a short week. We'll play Baltimore with Lamar Jackson coming back. So we'll see if this is a real team or if this was just a blip in the world. So we'll see. I'll take a win, but I mean, we're a 2-win team.
But you were 100% correct, my friend. The game was early very, very quickly, and I stopped watching about the third quarter. I didn't even see Tyler Allgeier's touchdown at the end. Why? Because I couldn't take it anymore. I don't know what it is. I really don't. I don't know if you could blame Raheem Morris for this. I really don't think you can. I think this is more just the team. But it's games like this that really frustrate fan bases. When you're getting blown out by 30 to the Carolina Panthers, when you're getting blown out by the Miami Dolphins in a game that really should not have been this way at all.
Shouldn't have. I'll agree with that 100%.
People wonder why I don't want to see Kirk Cousins anymore. Get that boy out of Atlanta today. You have until November 4th.
I was really shocked on the defensive play calling, because they were playing zone in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, they're just going to let Tua throw.
And again,
And you give Tua an option like that, he's going to rip it apart, because that's what he does. He doesn't, and they were saying it during the game, he doesn't throw to receivers. He throws to spots.
Mm-hmm.
So when a team plays zone or man-to-man when they're giving him 6 yards, Tua's going to rip them apart, because that's the only thing Tua knows how to do. And I was like, okay, but I mean, obviously we're going to pick our teams, but I'm going to get something off my chest as well, as I'm a family guy.
Of course. He is a family guy.
And I got my wife into fantasy a couple years ago. Now she's hooked, and I helped her the first year, and she won the championship. And I said, all right, here are the keys.
Yep,
I'm not helping you anymore. I'm sorry. I love you.
Drive the Winnebago yourself
but
now.
I got to win my championship too. So this week I'm in a Survivor League. There was 19 of us left.
Oh no.
I had New England going into Sunday morning.
Oh, thank God.
And I was like, cool. I think New England should take this. And I asked my wife, because she helped me last week.
Oh no.
I said, babe, what you thinking? New England or Cincinnati? And she said, oh, I would go with Cincinnati. And I love her.
Oh no.
And I went with Cincinnati. And sure enough, I got my ass knocked out, and 8 other guys out of the 19 took the Falcons.
Brother.
So if I would have went with the Patriots, I would have been one of 9 left. but it's all right.
Dang.
She makes more money than me,
No,
so
no, no,
I
it's
can't
fair.
buy.
She got
I'm
a
like,
new
babe,
job now.
just remember, I lost $7,000 on that pick.
Dinner's gonna be on her for the next like month. I can tell you
Yes,
that right now.
but I love you.
But no, God, man, that's another game we'll get to after the break too. Because to be honest with you, didn't see that coming. A 15-point swing in the fourth quarter, and Justin Fields looked like, well, a quarterback for the first time this year. And all it took was Woody Johnson coming out and actually criticizing him. But again, we'll get to that after the break. The question I need to pose though before we go to break, with this embarrassing loss, does this hurt Kirk Cousins trade off or trade stock? I'm gonna start with you, my friend.
I personally think so. I think they gave him a platter here. All you got to do is beat up
Right.
Miami like everyone else
And you
does.
could have easily had a starting
And
spot
he
with
probably would
so
have got
many
a job.
teams.
He would have teams would have been calling because
Yep.
there's very, very many teams that are quarterback needy right now.
100%.
And they set him up perfectly for it. I don't know if it was all Kirk Cousins because that team looked like they weren't scheduled to play this game on Sunday
Now
on
again,
the defensive side too. But I know football. I played it. I coached it. I know everything goes with momentum.
Yep.
And when your quarterback is crap in the bed, a lot of other players start crapping the bed as well. So I will say Kirk Cousins, his stock is definitely down in the trade value.
I agree with you 100%. It does hurt his trade value, although I still think the trade happens. Now,
Who do you think?
I'm not 100% sure. Maybe Minnesota wants a reunion if JJ doesn't work out this next week and he comes back from injury and they're not fully prepared or they don't fully believe he can do it. Maybe we see a trade between Atlanta and Minnesota and bring him back. I don't know. Regardless, I agree with you. I think this hurts the trade stock because if you look at his last 5 appearances, okay, including the 30 point blowout, so we won't necessarily cover that one that much, but 64 passer rating, 903 yards, 1 touchdown, 7 interceptions in his last 5 appearances as a Falcons quarterback. That is abysmal. Not to mention, last year when they benched you, you claimed Atlanta mishandled you and your injury and essentially forced you to play on a bad shoulder, which is why you played bad. That was the excuse that you threw out there. People may have stopped talking about it, but that's exactly what Kirk meant when he said, "Oh, well, I've been injured and I've been trying to play on it." And you caused a lot of people to start thinking, "Oh, maybe Atlanta is mishandling players. Maybe they're not looking at injuries well enough, etc., etc." Now you come out to this game. Like I said, you were only sacked 1 time against Miami. The offensive line gave you plenty of time. But as Sparky said, there were multiple instances where you threw that ball 10, 12 yards past the guy you were supposed to. Granted, Drake London didn't play. That's your number 1 option. But you still had Kyle Pitts. You still had Darren Mooney, who is your favorite target last year. Darrell's not done much this year, but he has been your favorite target in the past. You didn't need Drake London all that much. So you can't sit there and say you didn't have targets, and you still had Bijan and Tyler against, again, the NFL's worst rush or defense. And you didn't do anything because that doesn't just show me that your shoulder ain't there. That shows me your head ain't there. That shows me you aren't making adjustments at the line. You're not looking at a defense and saying, "Oh, they're attacking us this way. Hey, switch it up." That's how the best quarterbacks beat you. It's not based on the call that comes in from the OC. It's based on what they see and the adjustments they can make at the time of the play. Kirk did none of that at all. That is the biggest problem I have with Kirk Cousins with this whole trade thing and why I think teams are going to be like, maybe a younger guy might be better. Because again, Kirk is 37. And you're still going to have to eat up a majority of this contract, whether Atlanta has to do it to get him off the roster or whomever trades for him has to just inherit it. So that's also going to be out there. Plus, again, like I just said, your injury history isn't going to help you. Last year, you had the shoulder. The year before that, you tore your Achilles. This isn't going to be an easy trade, but I do think Atlanta still pulls it off with somebody that's going to be quarterback needy, that's going to be trying to fight for a playoff spot here. My only concern is how quick it's going to happen. Get him out of the room. Let's end this entire facade. Let's end this entire just story of this or chapter of this book. Shut it. Never go back. This is done. At least me speaking as a Falcons fan. I am over it. I'm done with it. Michael Penix is the future. Michael Penix is the now. Get him healthy. Get him back on the field. And let's move on from Kirko. This was a failure from the get-go. It's going to continue to be a failure. Let's take a break real quick. On the other side, we'll talk about a team that was able to turn around their failures as the Jets pulled off their first win of the year. Plus, the Ravens may have saved their entire season with that win over the Bears, and we'll explain why. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield.
And before we run into these NFL games, just a big, some big love out to the family of Nick Mangold, who
Yes.
passed over the weekend. And we had talked about it about a week or two ago when they were looking for some donors. And
I can't believe they didn't find a single donor.
man, it happened quick too.
It did 2 weeks. And I mean, again, when you hear these things, no one ever knows what the timetable is, and you never know how serious it is. And everybody always says, "Oh, it's very, very serious," but you never really fully can tell. But 2 weeks. I mean, we're talking about arguably one of the best centers of my lifetime, Nick Mangold. What is it? 7-time Pro Bowler. I mean, the guy was a consistent just stud at the wire or the center position for the Jets. Pretty much kept Mark Sanchez alive for the majority of his career. And again, to have a very serious kidney thing happen like this that pops up that takes your life. I mean, I was really hoping somebody in the Jets nation was going to reach out and say, "Oh, I got you."
Yeah, I thought for sure, but I mean, 2 weeks, it happened quick, but just some love and support for the Mangold
Absolutely.
family. But we'll get into the rest of these crazy weekend of football.
Let's start with the Jets. We might as well. We talked about it already. And with the Nick Mangold passing, I mean, the team had a whole different level of motivation really to come back and win this game. 15 points down in the fourth quarter against Joe Flacco and the Cincinnati Bengals, who were looking to try to get back into the AFC North. And Justin Fields and company came out in droves to make this work, man. Justin ended the game with 21 of 32, 244 and a touchdown. Breece Hall right there with him, 18 carries, 133 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and the game-winning passing touchdown to Mason Taylor in the back of the end zone that gave them a 1-point lead. And to be honest with you, this is probably the best I have seen the Jets look in well over a year. They actually were able to score the football with ease. Justin still, to this day, is the only quarterback in the NFL without an interception thrown. Although, again, we made the point last week, it's kind of easy to not throw an interception when you're not throwing the ball.
Right.
But at the end of the day, all of this comes in the heels of owner Woody Johnson coming out criticizing Justin specifically and the team. But he very much highlighted Justin for being the issue, not Aaron Glenn. Is Woody a master motivator here, as the Athletic is kind of presenting as well? Or was this just a case of the Cincinnati Bengals are that bad?
From what I saw, because I was flipping back and forth with the red zone, and what I saw, I mean, it looked like the Bengals just did not look prepared at all.
They really weren't.
I think they looked like, okay, we're playing the Jets. This is a easy win after last week's, heroic win of Joe Flacco over the Steelers. And
At the Unk Bowl.
I'm like, oh God, what is this?
Here's my thing, because the more I dove into this, the more I was like, I couldn't really tell you which one it is. Did Woody really just motivate Justin? Because no quarterback wants the owner coming out and pretty much blaming them for everything. And Justin's comments after the game, I felt for him.
My gosh.
Being that open with the media, saying that he was crying in his closet. And trust me, I feel his pain. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing Justin in that way at all. We have had our gripes with Justin's play, and rightfully so. He hasn't looked great at the beginning of this year. But at the end of this at this whole story, him just being in that kind of emotional state could not have been easy. Playing on that could not have been easy. And that just gives me all the more respect for the guy. But at the end of the day, this is on Woody. Him acting like, I mean, we were talking about it on Friday. We were expecting Tyrod Taylor to be the starter. Everybody was, although he was never actually named the starter. And I think Aaron going into this weekend knew that was not going to be on the table. But you have your quarterback crashed that bad under that much pressure. Like that's rough, man. That really is, no matter who you're playing for. I feel for the kid. I really do. But at the end of the day, when we look at the Bengals, yes, they traded for Joe Flacco, and that helps the offense, but it doesn't save the defense at all, as we've stated many, many times over this year. And just so you guys know, the Bengals, their defense is one of the worst in the league.
As we expected.
We're talking 31st in scoring. They literally allow 31 points a game. We're talking 31st in total defense, 30th in pass defense, 31st in red zone percentage. They allow 72% of the time you get a touchdown against them in the red zone. I mean, third down rate, 50% they give up, 50% of the chances on third down. It's a coin flip literally every single time they're on the field if they can get off. So was this more Woody Johnson's incredible motivating of getting the team back on track, even though not Sauce Gardner, not Quentin Johnston, not any of these other defensive players or other players, Garrett Wilson, have to worry about Woody Johnson coming out and name dropping them at a press conference and blaming them solely for all of it, which I find to be absolutely ridiculous still to this day. But at the end of it all, personally, I think the Cincinnati Bengals are just that bad, especially defensively.
I think so.
It's just one of those instances where you have to take all of it into account. Granted, yes, the Jets look great on offense, but they went up against literally the NFL's second worst defense.
The same thing I'll say about the Dolphins. I mean, let's see how they look next week.
Exactly. So we will see how this all shapes up. Hopefully, this is the kick in the pants that Aaron Glenn and the Jets need to turn this entire season around and they can get back on track. And hopefully, well, they won't be sniffing the playoffs, let's be fair, but at least get you back into some sort of relevance.
And they keep it in the AFC East. Obviously, we kind of figured the Bills would blow out the Panthers, but I mean, 40-9, Cook was cooking. That's all I could say. And on the other side, the Patriots. Yeah, the Patriots they spanked the Browns, and I almost started to feel bad for Myles Garrett.
5 sacks in the game.
But then I remembered how much they're paying him, and I'm like, okay.
You know what though? I mimic his frustrations on the sideline when you saw him
his
get
helmet
pulled
and slamming it down.
I don't blame him, dude. I'm sitting there thinking, if I'm Myles Garrett, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm doing literally everything possible. 5 sacks, forced fumble, giving you all the opportunities you could possibly need. And we're squandering it all away. I don't like, but again, it's like you just said, you get paid millions upon millions of dollars. You knew what you were getting yourself into with this Browns team when you stayed, even though in the offseason you were claiming you would never play for the Browns again in your career. So, I mean, I don't know. But what do you think of the state of the AFC East right now? Obviously, all of you kind of moving a step forward, but
everybody winning. Well, I was not expecting that. I think the Bills, I know what they're now 11-0 after a bye week. And I'm still not sold. I know the trade deadline is a week from tomorrow.
Yep.
So we're going to start seeing, okay, well, who's missing these spots and who's going to actually do something with it. I think Buffalo needs a receiver. Obviously, James Cook's not going to win every game for you. I think the Patriots are starting to put things together. I know they're still young. They're I don't think they're a championship caliber team, but they're definitely a playoff team the way they're playing. And they also have a great, easy schedule. I mean, not easy because they're all professional athletes.
No, but it's a simpler schedule.
It's an easier schedule than most other teams. But I will say, I think the Patriots and the Bills are set to make the playoffs. And I think the Bills need to trade for a receiver. And their defense is not, it does not look good, even though they're beating up on Carolina. But I think when they're getting into games with higher caliber teams, I think they're going to be exposed. And I don't think they're good enough right now to beat the Chiefs. I did hear a lot of rumors this morning talking about, the Cowboys are a player or two away from being a caliber team in the playoffs. And you don't ever know which Dallas team is going to show up. It's when they look good, they lose, they look bad. So, I mean, I think the AFC East, it's going to go through Buffalo.
I have to agree with you. I know we've been very high on the Patriots and Vrabel and how much he's been able to put together down there. And who knows, maybe this is the year they usurp him and they end up taking the division. But I have to agree with when it comes to Buffalo, there's way too many question marks on the defensive side of the ball to really say that you're a safe bet at the Super Bowl. And I know a lot of people, including guys like Peter Schrager, have already picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I love Josh Allen. The world knows this. But at the end of the day, he can only do so much. And I agree that James Cook isn't going to be the deciding factor in every single game. It really poses the question, though, do they have enough or really money to make this, and to make the necessary moves to make it to the Super Bowl? Because obviously you need more than just a wide receiver. I realize offensively they need a wide receiver, but defensively you still need a pass rusher that could probably get to the ball, I'd say maybe 5 or 10 times. You know what I mean? You got Joey Bosa. You got, oh God, I'm trying to blank on the guy's name right now, but the other defensive end that's fantastic. Russ now? No, something of that nature. It again, doesn't matter. Feel free to tighten me up if you want to. They have guys who traditionally step up. Milano, one of those guys, but they need somebody.
Esperano or whatever his name is.
Well, there's AJ Espinoza too, but that's not who I'm talking about. It's the other one. Again, I'll look it up during the break. It really isn't that big of a deal.
Well, they're definitely missing spots.
Yeah.
I mean, Von Miller gone. Obviously, he wasn't a big piece of that defense, but they're missing tackles.
Right.
I mean, they just don't look like a championship caliber team.
My only thing that I need to highlight too before we go to break is we have now seen multiple instances where the Buffalo Bills have been beat on tape. Teams are going to utilize that. They're going to find ways to really just exasperate it. And I think everybody's starting to realize Josh can't do it by himself. So if they can isolate everybody else, especially James Cook, it's a lot easier to beat this Buffalo team than people realize. Let's take a break real quick. On the other side, we got to get to this other AFC side in which the Ravens have somehow potentially saved their season now with Lamar Jackson on the way back on Thursday against Miami. And to be honest with you, the defense finally looked like what we expected them to this past weekend against Caleb Williams. Is it that big of a deal, though? We'll give you our thoughts on that on the other side of the break. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. We're also streaming video every single day from 7 to 9 as the show goes on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok as well. Like, share, subscribe, all that type of good stuff. Let's get to these last talking points in the NFL before we move on to the NCAA Plus World Series Game 3 getting started tonight as they head back to Chavez Ravine. And also I had someone tighten me up. Thank you. It's AJ Espana, not Espinoza, Espana. I always read his name completely wrong. And then Greg Russo was the other name that I was trying to think of for the Buffalo Bills. Their front seven, I mean, they have talented guys on there, but there are still plenty of question marks that I can't necessarily say are going to be the best thing going forward for them in the playoffs, especially when teams like Atlanta have been, highlighting your issues. So let's talk about another team that desperately, desperately needed a win this weekend. That was the Baltimore Ravens without Lamar Jackson still. And it seems that he might be back on Thursday, from what they understand. Coach John Harbaugh came out and said that the handling of his injury was a mistake.
Now there might be getting fined for that.
Again, why? Why is everybody so quick to just ignore these things that John says? I'm starting to hate the guy, and I don't hate the guy at all. He seems like a really, really likable guy, but I'm just like, you can't say that. You can't come out and say it was a mistake. That doesn't make any sense. But again, Snoop Huntley coming out, playing a fantastic game for the Ravens. The defense is really what shined, though, throughout. Did not allow Caleb Williams to have a single touchdown. They allowed one rushing touchdown to DeAndre Swift and stopped the incredible rushing attack of the Bears. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to stop the Bears in any way, shape, or form, especially under Ben Johnson, you have to stop the run game. That is how his offense rolls. It all rolls through these fantastic running backs that they have. And the Baltimore Ravens were just able to pull it off. One of the biggest things that I have to highlight was the red zone efficiency. The Bears got to the red zone 3 times, only scored once. The Ravens on the opposite side doubled that, got there 6 times and scored 3 times. Now, again, neither of these are fantastic percentages, I grant you, but at the end of the day, that is what you want from your defense. I saw it a lot in the Tampa Bay and Saints game. The Saints defense, stout throughout that game, even though they got blown out, were able to stop the Buccaneers multiple times on these rush plays at the 1-yard line. And when your defense is playing like that, it ignites everybody watching the game that is a fan of yours. And the Ravens did exactly that against the Bears. Were able to thwart this offense of Ben Johnson and start to get back into winning ways. Does this revive their season? I mean, when you look at it, the rest of the season, it's kind of sketchy. But the next 5, at least, like I said, Miami on Thursday, then they head to Minnesota, take on the Vikings, then they head to Cleveland, take on the Browns. Then you got the Jets at home, Cincinnati at home, and then then they'll be playing Pittsburgh right after that. If they could somehow win these next 5 and go into that game against Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh continues this downward trend that we're seeing, which, by the way, those uniforms were just as bad as the Chargers.
My gosh, dude.
I'm talking about Charlie Brown walking out on the field. I was waiting for Boz to get the but I mean, at the same time, regardless, at this point, it is very, very likely that we might see one of the biggest turnarounds in the NFL's history if Lamar comes back, plays at an MVP level, and the Ravens get to the level we all expected them to be at the beginning of this season. Do you think they saved their season, Sparky?
I don't.
No, you
I
think it's still
personally
in the
don't.
trash?
I think it's a bit too late, and it really does depend on what Lamar we get. We finally got a Henry that looked like Derrick Henry,
Yep.
but I'm not sold, man. I don't think it's really the team. I'm still going back to Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he is out of the era of what the Ravens need to take this team to the top. And I think it's a bit too late. I do give them some support because I didn't think they were going to pull that win out, but it was a hell of a win, and we'll see. It'll start Thursday, but if they drop an egg and lose to Miami, I think it's over.
It was a really, if you look at the stats of this game too, it is one of the weirdest statistical anomalies I've ever seen because these stats are dang near even in every way, shape, and form. The amount of drives you had, the amount of yards that were put up. I mean, the only difference was the points in the red zone efficiency. That's why I had to highlight the red zone efficiency because it really came down to that. Which team executed a little bit better in order to pull off the win? And I think with Baltimore's win against this Bears team, which is no slouch. I'm not going to sit there and say the Bears aren't fighting for a playoff spot because they are. And I think this is the win and the momentum you needed to build this back up. I completely forget this was a revenge game for Raekwon Smith, who I believe this is the first time he played in Chicago since leaving the team. And it looked like one of those games where I said, okay, this is the Baltimore Ravens team, at least defensively, that I expected to see. So I'm starting to believe that we may see a turnaround, especially since I'm not a believer in the Pittsburgh Steelers at all.
Me neither.
And honestly, we'll start with that right now because that game last night against the Packers, 35-25. I mean, can we really say that that's the best we've seen out of a Mike Tomlin-led team? Aaron Rodgers visibly frustrated with his wide receivers for dropping so much. I mean, the team itself had plenty of opportunities to win. And I've had multiple Steeler fans now text me, including my best friend, who's a diehard Steeler fan, who are all calling for the head of the defensive coordinator. And I don't know if you can blame Terrell Austin for all of this. Now, granted, they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league this year, 28th to be exact. And that's not normal for a Pittsburgh Steeler team. But are we really certain that firing the defensive coordinator is what the Pittsburgh Steelers need to do to turn this season around? Because let's be honest, let's look at even in the wins that they've won this year. A lot of them you almost threw away. I don't necessarily think it's just one thing with this Steelers team. I just don't think they're as talented as people believe.
And I think the same thing with Green Bay.
Yeah,
I think that
same.
they're both kind of in the middle of the pack, not trying, or they haven't found their real personality of a team, and either one could have won that game last night. I mean, whether it was Green Bay starting out super slow, Love looked uncomfortable in the first half. Luckily, he came out after halftime, threw 20 in a row in completion passes, and I mean, they looked a lot better. But we've seen it. Both teams, we've seen it over the season where we don't know which team is going to show up. And I'm looking at, I mean, I can bundle all these teams. The Bucks have looked bad in the last 2 weeks. Baker looks uncomfortable. The defense luckily stepped up for them. And my question is, with the big wins from the Colts, the Broncos, the Texans, and I mean, you think all three of these teams can be a major playoff team?
Texans, not so much. Colts, Broncos, 110%.
I mean, because Stroud looks like he's playing
waking
like
up.
CJ Stroud.
He's waking up 100%. And that win against the San Francisco 49ers this weekend was a big win for them and keeping their season alive as well. I don't know if they have enough either. It's kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers to me. Like when you went out as a Steeler, when the Steelers went out and made all of these acquisitions in the offseason for guys like Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, we were expecting them to be beefing up this defense. I know we had mentioned it, if this trade came 5-6 years earlier for Jalen Ramsey, it would have looked better. But obviously, you still get Jalen Ramsey on the team. Let's look at where they are in defense, though, especially pass defense. And they're dead last in pass defense. Like, again, there are factors within that we could talk about that are probably the reasons for it. But that is a highlight for the Steelers that you have to look at, much like the Houston Texans still have not figured out exactly what they're going to do on offense. Although CJ looked good against an injury-riddled Niner team, you still are playing against a Niner team that wasn't playing with Fred Warner, and you still couldn't necessarily get the run game going that well. So I'm not exactly sold that the Houston Texans have turned it around, although I'm sitting here singing the praises of the Baltimore Ravens. So God only knows. I could be wrong on both accounts, especially with the AFC South being what it is. And to be honest with you, I'm not a firm believer on the Jacksonville Jaguars either.
Oh, no.
But the Colts are legit. If you don't think the Colts are legit by now, I don't know what you're watching.
Yeah, we got a listener said the Colts are the real deal.
They are 100% the real deal. It is wild to say, but it is 100% the real deal. And we'll get into the Broncos after the break here because with this game coming up tonight, the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Washington Commanders, and we all kind of assume 75% of the country, to be honest with you, that the Chiefs are going to be winning. And that's not me pulling a number out of the hat. That's legitimate, exactly what ESPN puts it at.
Only 75%?
75% of a chance to win this game for the Chiefs. I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Quinn pulled out some magic, especially with how weird a lot of these games went this weekend. I don't know if it's the holiday hoodoo.
They get Debo McLaurin back.
Oof. Just saying, could you imagine if Debo runs all over these guys? Could we see Terry McLaurin absolutely break one deep? Absolutely. I could very much see that tonight. But the Denver Broncos, again, like I said on Friday, consistently showing people why they are the best team in the AFC West. Consistently, even with Patrick Mahomes and Captain Kool-Aid, as Harry likes to call him. I'm sorry, Freddie likes to call him. Let's take a break real quick. We'll talk about that on the other side, plus the absolute huge win of the Broncos over the Cowboys.
And Daily Dave, we'll get to you right after this break. We are the Early Bird Special on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back.
And before we get into all the other stuff, some breaking news. If you're a Raider fan, you just got wide receiver Tyler Lockett.
Oh, nice.
And they did confirm Scadabo's injury is season ending, and it looks so bad, man.
That was the worst dislocated ankle I've ever
The
seen.
Giants have the worst luck, dude. I
Dude,
mean, obviously, I know the defense is still going to be tough, but
Right.
Dart losing his number one receiver right before he takes over the starting position, and
Scatterboo
now
with the
Scatabo
ankle.
gone. I mean, that's hurt.
Pun intended. They play the Eagles on that one. But no, I mean, I get it. I don't know if they could say they're cursed though. There are so many teams this year that have been absolutely riddled with injuries. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens we talked about, the
The
San Francisco
Bucks.
49ers, the Bucks. They are definitely one of those teams though where the injury bug has not been nice to them at all. And speaking of Raider Nation, I would real quick, we already talked about Nick Mangold, but Raider Nation lost someone huge over the weekend too, as Carol Davis passed away. The former wife of Al Davis, who I think she was 91, which again, hell of a run, hell of a run. And she was part of the organization the whole time. I mean, I think we all kind of forget that, yes, the face of it would obviously be Al, the man who was the owner of the team, commissioner of the AFL at one point when during the merger. I mean, we all remember what he has done for the Raiders, but Carol was with him throughout the entire time. Carol supported him throughout all these decisions. And let's be honest, every single one of you who, are living in a household where you are married, how many of you men actually have a say in what happens in the household? Let's be honest. So if we got to thank anybody for the Raider Nation and what it is today, I have to say we have to give all love and respect in the world to the Davis family and Carol herself, who again passed away over the weekend, and that is unfortunate for Raider Nation. Let's talk about the game tonight real quick before we have to get to a break and we can get to our guy Daily Dave and all of this other stuff. But we got a fantastic matchup tonight. Kansas City taking on the Washington Commanders, a game that at the beginning of the year when they scheduled this was the perennial Super Bowl champion against an up and coming threat in Jaden Daniels and this Washington Commanders team. Now the storyline has completely flipped as we have seen the Chiefs try to claw their way back from irrelevance to relevance again. And now this Washington Commanders team, another team dealing with the massive injury bug issues, losing their starting quarterback in Jaden Daniels for this game. And Marcus Mariota will be taking the helm again. It is going to be a rough game going forward, but I think this is a must win for the Kansas City Chiefs solely because of what we saw from the Denver Broncos this past weekend against Dallas. Denver has now scored 77 points in 5 quarters of play. That is an incredible amount. And to be honest with you, running it up on a Dallas team who, again, may be skeptical on the defensive side of the ball, I grant you, is still led by one of the NFL's best offenses. And at the end of it all, with them at 5-2, the Chargers still up there winning on Thursday. The Chiefs need every single win they could possibly get. This one may look easy. Like I said, ESPN Bets has this at 75% going towards the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not sure what the statistics are in terms of win losses when the rates go up that high. I do know, however, traditionally, when it's 60% of the community on one team, the game actually goes the other way. And if we're sitting at 75% right now for the Chiefs, we might see some crazy comeback tonight, or not comeback, upset tonight from the Washington Commanders. What are your thoughts, my friend?
I think Kansas City runs it away
You think
early.
so?
I just think they're cooking right now. They're playing well. They're getting a lot of guys back, and they're getting them back in the mix. And Washington, I think it would be a different story if Jaden was starting.
True.
I just can't
I'm not a
with
fan of
Mariota.
Marcus. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of
But
Marcus Mariota,
but
but
I know Washington, if anybody could, they can shock them. But I hope it's a closer game than what is expected. And we got Daily Dave on the line, so let's let him get something off his chest.
absolutely. Sir, how are you?
Oh, great sports weekend, ending with our two boys from Bakersfield playing against each other, Porter versus Love. Oh, Saturday night I'm over at Tascadero at my son's house. We got 4 generations: an 8-year-old, a 40-year-old, 70-year-old, and a 97-year-old guy. We're cheering on the Dodgers.
I feel
What a
it. I
great
mean, again, it's the Dodgers have done one thing, and that's home grow their fans and their players very, very well, sir. How do you feel about
Oh,
game 3 tonight?
I'm going Kansas City. They're hitting their stride. They're getting their people back. and my theory about any play when you get to the end of the year, and we're not near the end, but the team that's the healthiest, the team that's going to win. Look at our guys on the Dodgers. We got Muncy came out of it. Our catcher came out of it. Tommy came out of it. All of our players are back on the lineup, and we're healthy. That's why the Dodgers are doing so good. But I have to tell you who the name I've given to Yoshi Yamamoto. No, I can't even say his name. I call him YY.
Yeah, of course. That's a good one.
Easier to say.
See,
and then you guys are dead on in football. I'm going to switch over. Vrabel is the reason that New England is going to become a dynasty again.
Oh, 100%.
Whoa. Dynasty. I don't know about that.
Winning championships is how you become a dynasty.
They're going to become relevant.
Yes, I will agree with that 100%. Bringing back the Bill Belichick way is definitely the route they need to go. And to be honest with you, I have an entire thought process when it comes to college ball too that we'll get to, because with Brian Kelly's exit from LSU, I think we're teeing up probably one of the biggest NCAA week 1 matchups next year if they can potentially do this correctly. But again, that's all besides the point thing.
I was screaming in all the sports shows last year, where's Vrabel? Why is New England passing? And then your partner says, no, they had to go with the other guy. And he lasted a year. And now they've made the right choice. And it's good to see. I mean, I'm not ever really been a New England fan, but I just love good football. And I think the Vrabel way is the New England way. It's the Belichick way. Whatever way it is, it's going to work.
No, 100%. And again, it's one of those situations where I think smart owners realize when they make a mistake and they swiftly change them. I think exactly what Robert Kraft did was they realized, okay, we tried to keep Mayo around. We thought he was potentially the guy since he was on the roster, but Vrabel is literally Bill Belichick's apprentice.
I can't believe the Titans let him go.
I can't either, but it is what it is. That's how football goes. Some teams are smart, some aren't. And we have to live with the outcome of it all. Dave, thank you so much for your call, sir. We really appreciate it.
Okay. The only thing I want to say about last night, there was too many mistakes for the Steelers. Everybody getting something going. They had a holding call or something. And,
right.
And don't get me wrong, Love outplayed Rodgers last night, but it was great for Love and Green Bay Packers. And
when you have a 27-year-old playing a 40-year-old, it's highly likely the 27-year-old is going to outplay him. But thank you, sir. I appreciate your time as always. We got to take a break. On the other side, we'll talk about the Brian Kelly firing, plus get you ready for Game 3 of the World Series before we talk to our guy Snacks about what happened in the world of the NBA. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. We've talked plenty of NFL. We got to get to a ton more, though. There's been a lot happening. We just have breaking news right now. Ed Oliver of the Buffalo Bills, torn bicep. He'll be sidelined indefinitely. We were just talking about how the Bills need to make some key trades. I swear to God, man, every time I sing the praises of one area of a team, something pops up. Somebody pops, their best player says, nope, not playing for the next 8 weeks. It's absolutely ridiculous. Let's talk about a little college ball, though, because it was a pretty entertaining college weekend. Saturday was a packed day for us on this show, to be completely honest with you. I know Sparky was down at the Woolworths opening all day.
Yeah, and a big shout out to everyone that came out. I know
Yes.
there was a line down the street, down 19th, around Chester to get food, and just know it's in the name. It's a grand opening,
Yes.
so we are open from, I believe, 10:30 to 10 p.m. starting today. So if you didn't get to eat, like me, I will get a burger today. But it was a long day, and I appreciate everybody out in the community that came out and supported it. There was 30-something vendors, 6 bands, even our comedian buddy Dan Betts, who was shaking in his boots to go on stage because he was the only comedian that performed at the event. And I've never seen Betts so nervous. And I thought I was nervous because there was a group of dancers in Spanish that I had to introduce.
Oh.
And I was practicing all day and I still botched it. But a big shout out to everybody that came out, even our boy KG. I got to meet his wife, and it was a cool community. I was out by 9 p.m. Saturday night. I did hear, which we'll hear more about on Wednesday with our Renegades guys, but BC came back.
Blew East LA out of the water. I got to witness that. That was a lot of fun. And to be honest with you, it's probably the best I've seen these Renegades look in quite some time. We even got a name drop on the show. Like,
nice.
Rob and Kenny were name dropping us quite a few times on the broadcast, and we got a wrestling reference in there too, which I find hilarious.
Oh, nice.
There was a double team tackle where both of them were like, "Oh, Chris will enjoy that. Look like the Dudleys." I said, "Yeah, it pretty much did." I almost had to tighten them up a little bit though too. It's like, it looks like the Hardy Boys, but it's okay.
Okay,
We'll get there.
And then there's another thing we'll talk about with our boy 24KG tomorrow, because we've got plenty of texts, and a couple of them are wrestling.
Halloween Havoc was awesome too.
And our guys that we talked about with Rodeo Pro Wrestling had their event, so we'll be continuing to talk about that. Plus, we've got we'll talk about it on Friday with our boy from KRRJ Collectibles. But Mick Foley is coming to town next week. We've got a lot of stuff going in this community, and it happens in the perfect time where the weather is starting to get cooled off. And but going back to college football, and I will have to just say thank you, Lord, that the coach from LSU was fired, but we can get into that and other games that happened.
Let's start with that, because honestly, we've been predicting this since the beginning of the season.
Should have happened earlier.
That was the first coach when everybody asked us who would be the first college coach to get fired. Which one was the one I said?
Kelly.
I said it was going to be Brian Kelly.
And even when the fans are chanting,
"Fire Brian Kelly,"
I was like, ouch.
Look,
dude.
man, and here's how it actually happened, because technically Brian wasn't even going to get fired, from what this story sounds like to me, at least. Reading up on it a little bit, he was fired Sunday after the embarrassing loss to Texas A&M, which, again, great, rightfully so. The athletic director and Coach Kelly got together. They had some disagreements. Scott Woodward, the athletic director of LSU, said, "We need to fire the offensive coordinator, Mr. Sloan, who hasn't done very well. This is the SEC's worst rush attack." So he said, "Let's fire the OC." Brian said, "No, I'm not going to fire my OC." That caused a huge argument between the two of them, where apparently Brian Kelly's entire $53 million buyout got brought up in the conversation. Not 100% sure if the athletic director would have had the right or the ability to fire Brian Kelly outright like that, because traditionally you do have to go and answer to a whole board of people, and they have to give you the okay to move on from your head coach specifically. So God only knows exactly where that conversation could have gone if the tempers flared that much. But at the end of it all, Woodward went to the board. The board said, Fire him. We're done. 3 out of 4 games they have lost now. Again, SEC's worst rush attack. And when you have a talented roster like this, especially one that started a couple years ago, the nation's best team, didn't get anywhere. This year, you started number 9. You are now out of the rankings again. And I've mentioned this a couple times. I said this about Sarkisian as well. If you are a team that started in the top 10 and you drop out of the top 25, you should be fired on the spot. Are you nuts? And for those of you who, had your comments about my thoughts on the whole James Franklin thing and how he wasn't, winning the big games to really keep his job, same can go here for Brian Kelly. If you look at his entire record, sure, his record with the team was 34-14 as a whole, but he was 5 for 11 against ranked opponents. You want to go even further? Let's talk about Florida's coach, Billy Napier, who was just fired last week. Kind of the same thing. 5-17 overall against ranked opponents, 0-14 away. In fact, Brian Napier was 12 of 16 against SEC teams as a whole in 3 years. Same amount of time as Brian Kelly. You cannot be a head coach for some of these big colleges, these LSUs, the Penn States, the Floridas, USC being another one as well. I genuinely believe Lincoln Riley might be in trouble here pretty soon, if not this year. If you do not produce, if you do not create winning cultures, if you do not make it to the playoffs now, which is now the new bar, that's the new bar that is now set for these SEC teams. You have to make the playoffs. If you can't do that, they're going to fire you. That's the whole point. We are in a world now where coaches don't last 12 years like James Franklin did. It is a very much give it to us now mentality. If you cannot do that, they will find somebody who can. They will find the Signettis who can turn them around and win these things. And at the end of it all, it's a call that honestly me and Sparky have been talking about for weeks, months even. The last 3 head coaches at LSU, Ed Orgeron, Les Miles, Nick Saban, all won championships within their first 4 years with LSU. This was the 4th year for Brian Kelly. They were nowhere close, so the firing needed to happen. Now, with this being said, Lane Kiffin, again, a name that's being thrown around there as the potential next head coach for LSU. Look, if Lane goes anywhere, he's going to Florida. I'm going to throw that out there. Lane with DJ would be incredible. And we'll get to that at some point. DJ Langway has been absolutely needing a coach like Lane Kiffin. I think, and again, we've been harping on this since we've been talking about, Brian Kelly needs to be out of LSU. Your one call should be to John Chucky Gruden right now. Call him. Pull this man in, give him as much money as humanly possible to be your new head coach. Because John Gruden with LSU would easily be the biggest coaching acquisition in the NCAA, bar none. And then, hear me out on this, Sparky. Could you imagine 2026, opening weekend of the NCAA, we get the LSU Tigers, led by now head coach John Gruden and his brand new quarterback, because Garrett Nussmeier is not going to be there next year. Brand new quarterback taking on Bill Belichick and the University of North Carolina Tar Heels in week 1. Dude,
LSU would put up 100 points.
ESPN would be raking in money regardless of how that game ended. Just solely because John Gruden against Bill Belichick. Are you kidding me? Or even if you wanted to go a different route, John Gruden against maybe Dion. John Gruden against anybody. Week 1 would be the biggest college football game in a decade. And to be honest with you, I think this is the perfect fit for LSU. Gruden has that mentality, the dogfight mentality. He could coach all of your quarterbacks, and being wide receiver that LSU is, because let's be honest, that's who it is. It's between them and Ohio State right now. And it's pretty dang far and clear it's going to be LSU, in my opinion.
A listener said he thinks Gruden's going to Florida. Lane Kiffin or Marcus Freeman will be the Tigers' next head coach.
I don't see Marcus Freeman leaving Notre Dame. That's one of the biggest things. I think Notre Dame does a very good job at keeping their guys where they should be. And I just don't see Marcus Freeman leaving. I just really don't. And actually, another one that popped up too, because I heard somebody text in with the video of Sarkeesian going off on the media for saying that he was entertaining pro jobs, and he tried to essentially damn whichever reporter came out with that, saying it was unprofessional. First and foremost, they're big guy. Is this your first year as a head coach? Of course, they're going to say you're going to entertain pro level college job or pro level coaching jobs. It's kind of comes with the territory. I'm not sure if you knew that. Not to mention, your Texas team hasn't looked great. You almost lost to Mississippi State this past weekend. So, yeah, a lot of people are thinking Sarkeesian might not be there in the next year or so. So to call them unprofessional is kind of wild for that. But it is what it is. You though, I feel LSU would be better off pulling in someone like Lane Kiffin. Or I'm sorry, not Lane Kiffin. I apologize. John Gruden than Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin fits better with Florida.
I'd love it.
I would. Regardless, SEC football is going to get some fantastic coaches here in the next couple months, because if this is all going to be wrapped up by playoff time, if they don't find their new head coach by playoffs, I'd be completely shocked. Because again, although they're not going to make it, because 3 losses in the college game is damning. You're not going to make college playoff with that kind of record, regardless of who you're playing. But I'm telling you, dude, if we got John Gruden against Bill Belichick, John Gruden against, Lane Kiffin, we get LSU Florida week 1, that would be a hell of a game. But John Gruden coming back to coaching in any way, shape, or form in the SEC, especially for the LSU Tigers, it's a match made in heaven. Yep. It really is.
I'd take it.
I'd take it and run like a thief. And if you're anybody in the SEC, I'd be worried, genuinely, because if they could figure it out with Lane Kiffin, I could see years upon years of the Tigers being an absolute dynasty, because that's just how Gruden rolls, dude. It's championship for bust if you play for Chucky. And I think the Tigers could potentially do that. I really do, especially since the likelihood of Gruden coaching in the NFL ever again is tiny.
I think it'll happen. I just think it'll happen after he wins some championships in college.
So you think if he becomes the next Nick Saban, that we're going to be just wiping it all away in the pro level?
I think it'll take a while, but I think it'll disappear after 5-6 years in college.
Put a number to it. How many championships you think he has to win for everybody kind of just forget about everything he's done?
Probably 2.
At least 2. I think 2 or 3 is safe. I think it's a fair number. But again,
he might fall in love with it and never come back.
That's what I'm thinking.
Who knows?
College ball is a completely different animal.
If you get a dream job like that with LSU, I mean, we might never see him again in the NFL.
And that honestly probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for Chucky, to be completely honest with you. Let's look at Nick Saban. Nick Saban has made an entire career being the greatest college coach of all time. And to be honest with you, not a single person talks about how bad of an NFL coach he was.
I do.
Well, I know you do, but it was for your team, unfortunately.
Yes.
That's the bad part about it. Let's take a break. On the other side, we'll talk about the World Series as Game 3 gets set to start from Chavez Ravine tonight. Plus, we have some stuff in the world of wrestling to get to before we haul in our guy Snacks to talk all things basketball. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield 101.1 FM. Talking to Billy Smith, our GM, about his Broncos. Again, fantastic. The defense is just otherworldly good, even without Patrick Surtain. Number one defense, again, with the quarterback. You still have to worry about the Chiefs, who will be playing tonight. The Commanders, you can hear that right here on ESPN Bakersfield as well. I believe we'll be covering that instead of the World Series.
Yep.
The NFL usually is king, so it doesn't necessarily surprise me. But we do have World Series Game 3 for you tonight, live from Chavez Ravine, and I'm excited. This series has got me pumped, Spark. I mean, I kind of had an idea that the Toronto Blue Jays were going to be that team to come out and, at least be able to offensively match the Dodgers. But both of these games 1 and 2, were a lot of fun to watch regardless. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I call him Yoshi, but that's just because I grew up a Mario fan. But Yoshi looked fantastic at game 2. The rookie for the Blue Jays looked fantastic in game 1. Tonight, we will get a pivotal game 3. I think it is a must win for the Dodgers, because if at any point in time you have to go back to Toronto during this series, we are going to have a ball game. And it's going to be one of those that's going to be absolutely fantastic to watch. You'll get Max Scherzer against Tyler Glasnow tonight. The positive for the Dodgers. The Blue Jays away, barely 500. Actually, they're just under 500. Technically, they're 40 and 41. But this is the playoffs. This is a completely different monster. We saw that with the Seattle Mariners series. Toronto dropping the first 2, going to Seattle and taking the series back. Will we see it again tonight as they go live from Chavez Ravine? Again, Glasnow, a .68 ERA right now in 13 innings pitched, 18 Ks. It's going to be a tall order for these Blue Jays to get past the Dodgers. What are your thoughts, my friend?
It's the same thing I've been saying since we made the World Series. It's really Toronto's only chance is to keep them Dodgers pitching. And as long as these Dodger pitchers can keep it in low pitches and get out of these innings, then they should be fine. I think the Dodgers are going to be tough to beat, and I think that's the only way you beat them, just like they did in game 1. I forget who was pitching the first game for the Dodgers, but what he had 26, 27 pitches in the first inning.
Yep,
That's
Blake
what you
Snell.
want. That is exactly what you want, because as soon as he hit 100 and they pulled him, all of a sudden, the Blue Jays, what was it, 9 runs in 1 inning?
Yep.
It was insane. And we saw what the Dodgers needed in game 2. He had a complete game. He got the win. And, it is a hell of a series. And I hope, now we're tied up 1-1. Now it's best out of 5. We'll hopefully see them split in the next 2 games, and we'll get into some real World Series best of 3. But I still think the Dodgers are going to be too tough.
The other thing that I keep thinking about is Max Scherzer's record against the Dodgers hasn't been stellar either. The guy, I think, is about 5-6 against the Dodgers career-wise, somewhere in the 3s when it comes to the ERA numbers. So that obviously makes you feel a little bit better. My one main question, though, is if the Dodgers win tonight, take a 2-1 series lead, do we go to Shohei tomorrow, or do you restart the entire lineup, go straight back to Snell? Personally, I say throw Show out there.
Me too.
I think that with the extra day in your last 3 games would be on Snell, Yoshi, and Glasnow again. I think that fits you better than immediately going back to Blake, who, like Sparky just said, game 1 ran up a little bit in that first inning. He wasn't the main reason for all the runs they gave up, but he did find himself in trouble early in that game. And
as soon as they went back to the relief, I was like, oh, here we go.
Now, if they lose,
that was my
go
question.
Down 1-2.
So they go down. What do you do for game 4?
I think you would have to throw Blake Snell out there, because Blake
started
Snell
up again.
Yeah, has been the most consistent pitching threat you've had all playoffs. And you need, again, it's hard for me to call Blake Snell their ace, because really all 4 of these guys are aces, every single one of them. But Blake, to me, is the one that is the most dangerous. Yoshi has an issue with me, or at least for me, that I've noticed that if you can get to Yamamoto early in the game in innings 1 and 2, traditionally you'll be able to get him off the mound by inning 6, 7. And then, like you said, when they have to lean on the relief pitching, there's always going to be issues. But when it comes down to Blake Snell could start out rough like he did in game 1 and still lock you down in innings 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it could be a 7-6 win for the Dodgers. So if they end up losing this game tonight, Glasnow somehow doesn't pull it off, I think you have to go back with Blake Snell and just hope and pray you can pull off 3 in a row. Not to say that Shohei can't pull it off for you, but I think you need to look at Shohei and say, I need you to focus more on hitting some home runs, big guy, because the pitching core, we're doing just as good. All we need you to do is somehow do what we did in game 2 and get us into double digits. Because that's essentially how you're going to beat this Toronto Blue Jays game, is most of these games are going to have to go at least, 12-11? Because we're talking about the number 1 hitting team in the dang big leagues, and that's not the Dodgers. That's the Blue Jays. When it comes to average, getting on base, getting these runs in, no one does it better than them.
When they get hot, they go on a streak.
They really do. And again, game 1, 11-4 was a big tell for that. Game 2, Dodgers came back 5-1 and looked fantastic for them. But game 3 could be a completely different monster. And although historically Dodger Stadium has been known as one of the best pitching fields in recent years, nobody's hit more home runs in any other stadium than Dodger Stadium. Granted, maybe that's because the roster itself is so stacked and they're the ones hitting most of the home runs, but that does not matter. Teams still come out and hit home runs in LA, and that's not what you want to do. You don't need to be giving up home runs to guys like Bo Bichette and Vladdy, who, again, it may be blasphemous for me to say, and some baseball fans are going to come after me, and feel free to, but I'm going to throw it out there. I think Vladdy's going to be a better hitter than his daddy at the end of his career. I think Vladdy at the end of his career, statistically, outside of maybe average, because his dad averaged 300, and that's hard to do. But when it comes to home runs, RBIs, just statistical categories in which make him a little bit better, I think he's going to outweigh his dad. I really do. This kid's talented, man. And
their catcher is really growing on me, man. And he always hits
Kirk,
when it's clutch, man. And he is
Alejandro Kirk, baby. Him, George Springer, Bo Bichette.
Springer, but I will give some support and love for Kirk, because that guy, anytime and every time, even if it's in the first inning or in the 9th inning, man, he steps up when they need him.
They absolutely do. And anytime I get to see him run around second base and waddle like a child is fantastic, because God, is it hilarious to see. But I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. When they need him the most, that is when he steps up. And that's honestly what you need the most from these guys. I think the Dodgers got that from Will Smith in game 2. I can't remember who told me this, but I was talking to somebody about this, and they believed that Will Smith was going to be the game changer. That was going to be the guy that was going to take them over the top. And traditionally, that's what happens in baseball, right? It's usually these, I don't want to call them lower players, but lower on the lineup at least. But we forget Will Smith, if he would have stayed healthy all season, probably would have won the batting title. He was doing that well this year. And for him to come back and play as well as he has as well during the World Series, you have to give him just as much credit as we give Kirk. These catchers are stepping up when they need them the most. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to boil down to which one of your star players can hit the most home runs. Because when it comes down to Vladdy versus Shohei or Springer against Freddie, I mean, it's really going to come down to that. Who can step up with guys on base and hit in these runs? Because if we get 10 to 12 run games from Toronto, it's hard for the Dodgers to even get close to that. And that's with them being so talented. That's what the craziest part about all this is. We'll let you know how this game ends tomorrow, plus give you our thoughts and all that as well. Again, you could probably hear or see that game on ESPN programming. Let me double check that actually. Fox. They're going to be actually on Fox programming. I apologize.
Streaming them both.
Fantastic. We got to take a break real quick, pay some bills. On the other side, we're going to talk to our guy Snacks, local referee here, about all things in the NBA. It was a fantastic weekend, including Austin Reeves dropping a 50 ball without Luka and LeBron, helping the Lakers pull off a dub. We'll get his thoughts on that. Plus, I don't think we've talked to him since the Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier thing. So I'd love to hear what he has to say about that as well. Let's take a break real quick. On the other side, we'll talk to him. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 1 FM, 12:30 AM. We also stream video live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can follow us on all social media platforms, including Instagram and TikTok. And we got to call in our guy, Snacks Harris from 93.1, as well as one of the best basketball referees here locally. And I'm telling you right now, he will be on an NBA court one of these days. But we got to get his thoughts on everything that happened over the weekend and a fantastic weekend of basketball. Sir, how are you?
I'm lovely, guys. You know, this is early for me. I'm up and ready to do it. Let's do it.
I know. I appreciate you getting up this early and talking with us, my friend, as always. And Snacks will be joining us on Mondays at 8:30 from here on out. Just talk about the NBA. Before we get into what we saw over the weekend, though, we have not gotten to talk to you since this whole Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier thing broke last week. What are your thoughts on this and just everything that's been going on?
I mean, who didn't see this coming?
Fair. This is fair.
And it feels like we're just getting started.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time of when it came out and who's coming out. Rather. I mean, cause especially in the NBA, they talk back in the day. That's all they talked about was playing poker and on the plane and going to casinos and all that. So the names that come out, I don't know if we should really be surprised. I think the question is, why is it just now coming?
Right. I mean,
why is it now?
Didn't you send me something, Spark, that Ty Lue was somehow connected to this as well? That's another name that's been popping up, and just it's weird to me. Let's start with Chauncey and these entire poker game situation when it comes to the mob and all of that type of stuff. Do you think that these guys are coerced into this? Like, because money can't be the reason that they all jump into this, right?
That's what I'm thinking. What extra money do you need? You're a billionaire already.
And you're still getting paid millions to coach. So there's no way that you're hurting for the money.
Yeah, I just think it's something that's forced on them. Because once you deal with the mafia, it's a wrap. Like, there's really no way out.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what you said, you were kind of immersed into it, because like anybody that knows, you deal with the mafia, you're just stuck. Now they're going to play games with you the whole time. Or you're out it. So.
Right. And
I think they just couldn't find a way out of it.
And they were used as face cards, quote unquote, which essentially, if you're just now learning about this and you don't know what we're talking about, a face card is essentially somebody the mafia pulls in to bring some legitimacy to the game, even though from what McAfee is reporting, along with some poker guys that he's had on the show, apparently a lot of these guys who came to the games, especially the high rollers, knew that they were getting screwed over, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Why would you play in a poker game that you knew you were going to lose? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
And this is a tough one because I don't really understand gambling, because I don't gamble. I played $2 at a slot before, and I was so mad. People thought I won. So,
that's awesome.
This money never made sense to me. But I'm actually surprised with what names are going to come out and how many more names. Because you're just going to start telling on each other.
Right. And God forbid it's somebody huge. I was kind of joking about it last week, but could you imagine if someone like Michael Jordan ends up being a name dropped in all of this? Like, this could ruin the NBA going forward, probably forever.
But again, Michael Jordan, I mean, this could be deeper. Michael Jordan never hid that he loved to gamble. Like,
true.
Everybody knows he loves to gamble. If this goes under, is this the reason that LeBron is trying to start his own league with his guys?
True.
He knows something ahead of time, like, hey, we need to work on this. I think they about to come out with it.
Right. No, and that's entirely possible. We had a guy last week come in and say that he believes LeBron is somehow connected to this. I told him that I see the NBA going a different route, kind of forcing LeBron to do the retirement tour to kind of distract everybody from all of this and just say, hey, look, LeBron's actually retiring. We should focus on that instead of the gambling stuff. But I mean, going to the Terry Rozier side of this, because this is two separate situations, do you think that the NBA is in a bigger problem or has a bigger problem on its hands because guys like Terry Rozier and Javante Porter now have been busted for essentially ruining the integrity of the game and trying to benefit off of their unders?
Yeah, it's most definitely not a good look. I mean, but again, how did we not learn this lesson when the referee was doing it?
True.
Way back in?
This is true.
Win. So why didn't we fix it then? But again, it's also I want to blame the players, but also blame the sport. Sports in general with sports betting. You're making it so accessible. Like it's so easy to bet now.
Wow.
Or to tell my homeboy, I'm gonna sit out today. So bet this or whatever the case. Like it's so why make it so accessible?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I think you just hit it right on that, because what I've heard since this has came out is, one, is the NBA going to be the first sport that just steps in and says, "Hey, we have to get away from all this, no matter how much money we're making." But what I'm hearing is more of them and all sports just getting away from prop bets.
They should.
They have to, because you look at ESPN now; they got a whole segment.
Yeah.
on what teams to bet on, or what you should bet on, or what Vegas is betting on. So it's like, how do you not get into that? And Michael Jordan said something about the whole challenge thing about betting, or somebody was saying about that's why they do it, because it's another way of competition. You guys think a lot of these superstars that play at a high level, that's why they've been so good, because they love the competition.
Right.
When you get into this gambling, that's what it is. It's true competition. And you're putting things on the line that really matter. So I think and this won't be the last sport. Can you imagine how many people bet on the World Series right now?
Oh,
how many people betting start with soccer and
I mean, it's been getting crazier and crazier. We talked about it during the Super Bowl week, when people, I mean, they're betting on how long the Star Spangled Banner is going to be, and
bet on the coin flip.
It gets insane. But one of the things, and I'm hearing it from former athletes that are saying, "Yeah, we'll gamble on anything."
Yeah.
But now we have to keep our sport away from, sports entertainment. Things like wrestling that everyone knows. They're athletes, but the ending is already pulled. We already know who's going to win, but now you have all this inside betting, and they've got to separate themselves. And I mean, I remember how crazy it was, going back to the Pete Roses and, sports gambling. And, just a couple years ago, you can look in right field and see a DraftKings logo, and they're like, what the hell has happened? And it's all about the money. So I think they have to do something. And I really think we talked about this last week with you, but with Adam Silver being a newer, type commish, I think it's really going to be on him putting his foot down or not, but it's really going to make the history, or, what people remember of, Daniel Stern to, Adam Silver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On top of that, sports was so much better when betting wasn't in it.
Yep.
That I can agree with.
Away from basketball. When you watch the NFL, it was a lot more tougher. It was a lot more grit. Like I like watching college basketball because they still play with a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, college sports, they still play with a little bit more.
Well,
we shouldn't have to wait for the playoffs or to get the best game
right
in the professional.
Well,
and also some of these games. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say college sports now are allowing these athletes to actually bet on professional games now too. So even they're kind of allowing it in a way. It's the weirdest part.
Yeah, and my teammates were betting when we played way back then. Granted, it wasn't as stickler as it is now, but that's how long it's going on. And I played college basketball back in 2000, so like it's been around a long time, and it's slowly been progressing its way in, and now it's just too many hands in the pot. And so now the FBI has put their hands on. I wish they put their hands on the other things. That's a different.
That's a completely different thing. But I mean, one last question before we move on from this, because I know we want to talk about what happened this past weekend, and it's been an incredible start to the NBA season, which is really what makes this the worst, is that it's all being just ignored because of this story. But you mentioned it, how the sports were better without betting. Personally, I'm one of those people that say, if you want to bet on sports, go bet on sports. It's your own money. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. But at the end of it all, I'm just this popped in my head when you said that. Do you think that getting rid of betting from a fan standpoint would actually kind of help in terms of all of these crazy fan stories that we keep hearing and seeing? Because I do think that a lot of people are getting way too I don't want to say overzealous or over the top when it comes to being a fan, but we hear all these stories about fights, about them getting into it with athletes. I mean, if removing the betting aspect of the game, do you think that would maybe pull back on that portion of it? People won't be as emotionally invested, which means they won't be attacking players and other people of different fan bases.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
We never had these issues. We never had these issues before betting.
right.
You don't have going after players or talking crazy to players. Now, granted, players were a little bit crazier back then, but you're gonna have these issues because people don't have their life on the line. Like we got to realize that betting. This is something that people do all day. They don't even work.
Right.
They rely on this. So if you take this away, I don't know if they have to go back. And again, I'm like you. If you bet, you want to lose your money, you want to gain your money. However you get your money, get your money.
Right.
It can't be me though. My nerves. I sat at the table and played $2 and my nerves was bad. So I can't imagine I put
exactly
$200 into a game and you lose and I lose all of that. No, I said I got an issue. So yeah, if you get rid of it, they have to get rid of it at this point.
I'm the same way. I'm not a big gambler, and if I am, it's more of a, I'll take my Dolphins to, be above 500 or something. I'll take a season bet, and I'd barely put any money on it. But now,
$50 maybe.
But now I'm seeing, okay, well now these guys got like the see-through tables and all these little gadgets that that's all set up, and you can't tell me that the
Vegas doesn't have these.
The Vegas isn't the not using those. So I'm like, okay, well now I'm really done. But no, just going back into what we're seeing after the first week of basketball. We'll start with the Lakers. LeBron out for the foreseeable future. Now Luka out for a couple weeks or so, and now the Lakers still find a way to whether it was Luka the first two games or Reeves putting up 50+ points last night. I mean, it's been an entertaining first week of basketball, and I'm pumped.
Yeah, I didn't expect the season to start off like this, and I'm kind of with you guys. The whole betting thing kind of overshadowed our first two nights of basketball. Our first two nights was incredible when it comes to like overtime games, the excitement of the game. It kind of went away from what we talked about last week, where you got one side of the spectrum just are like an all-star game, and like the East Coast conference is playing like actual basketball, but we just got actual basketball, and teams are coming at each other off the rip. And that's another thing they have to fix about these players being hurt. That goes into the betting too. When we always say it's fixed and whatnot, how all of a sudden this person is hurt for the rest of the series or whatever the case may be. So they have to limit the game. But again, they have so many games because there's so much money being advertised and being sold into the game. So I think 80 is way too much because Luke was already hurt. LeBron ain't even started the season yet. Those are your top two superstars already out. So people now you're losing views. So if they're not playing, I'm not watching.
Now Anthony Edwards leaving the game early. People are dropping like flies.
What's a suitable number of games you think that would be fair for the teams then? 70?
I would say 62.
62? Drop it 20?
Yeah. I even feel with baseball. I know we're not talking baseball.
Yes.
I feel like that's I don't want to play a team 5 times, three times a week. Like
160+ games is out of control.
Wow, but it's that way because there's so much money invested into it. And I also don't understand how they're getting hurt so much with technology being 10 times better than what it used to be back in the 90s. What they played way harder and abused each other way more back in the day. So what's different now?
I think it's connected to just the effort that you get from certain athletes compared to others. Because you're right, technology and stuff like that, especially when it comes to the healing tech that these guys can use during recuperation times and stuff, is so much better. So they should be able to play longer. But I mean, you look at the effort that these guys put out in practice. You see the effort that they put out really just during the games in general. It's a different type of game. I don't think these guys really look to go, all out for 48+ minutes every single game. I just don't think that's the mentality of an NBA player anymore.
Here's the mentality I think that most athletes in today's game have, and it's starting with the NIL in college. They really just there for the money. You can tell how they have no care in the world. And I think that's what's pissing the older generation off is that they played for passion. They played because they actually love the game. This new the new generation are playing just simply for money.
No, I had a handicapper who came on our sister station last week who said the exact same thing. He hangs out with athletes. He knows these guys very, very well. And he honestly said most of them are just greedy. They're just here for the money. And they don't really love the game like a lot of these old guys used to. So I think it really just boils down to that.
Yeah, they're there for the money. They occur in the world about everyone in the championship, going to the playoffs. I just need my money. Let me stack. Let me invest in something else.
Absolutely.
Then those are the sons who lose their money as soon as they're out.
May go hand in hand into why we're seeing all these gambling things go down, because these guys just want to make as much money as humanly possible while they're in the league. And easiest way to do that is to really bet on yourself in the most literal sense there is. Before we let you go, my friend, I have to highlight something because you were the first one to let us know to watch out for the Charlotte Hornets. And I got to say, I have been incredibly impressed, especially with that first game where they had 9 of their 10 players go into double figures. Like, what are you seeing from this squad, even though they lost this on Saturday against the 76ers?
Like I said, man, young, impressive to watch. I think they're a team that actually are playing with the passion that we just talked about. I think a lot of people sleep on LaMelo. He's always been good. He just can never stay healthy.
Dropped 38 on them yesterday.
Yeah, he's always, both him and his brother have a great basketball IQ. I just think they're there for so long, over highlighted them so people didn't look at them in a basketball sense. They looked at them as, your dad is getting on my nerves. But these dudes really can't.
No, that's
really
fair.
Ball. And go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's fair. That's an absolutely fair statement. I mean, LeVar really just put them up on too big of a pedestal, in my opinion.
Yeah, and now they're reaching it. But if you sit back and watch the basketball side, and those dudes really can play. They really have an IQ, and he has the right pieces around him. So I think if as long as LaMelo stays healthy, the Hornets are healthy. And don't be shocked if they're in the top 6. Was there the Eastern Conference?
I would not doubt it, honestly, with the way the East is shaking up this year. It's going to be a fantastic year of basketball. We have run out of time, though, my friend. Thank you so much for yours, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, brothers. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, brother. We got to take a break real quick, pay some bills. On the other side, we'll answer all of your guys' text messages before we get out of here for the day. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield.
Welcome back. I just watched this video again for the first time in years. I forgot how just good music videos used to be. God, I miss that era. This is the early bird special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Final couple minutes of the show. Let's get to some of these text messages before we get out of here because I know we've got a couple of them.
The first one says the Titans should trade for Kirk Cousins. I'll take him.
Take him. Anybody can take him. Anybody can take him at this point. Although I do kind of feel bad for Cam Ward. Y'all are ready to give up on Cam? I don't think Cam's your problem.
No.
I don't think although don't get me wrong, he doesn't exactly find your solution, but he isn't exactly your problem.
The next one says, I would have bet money that Sparky was going to start the show with the famous Kirk Cousins clip. You like that? No. I thought about it, but I don't
honestly, I would have let you. I honestly would have let you. That loss it is what it is.
I don't want to set myself up. They have an early week, so I don't want to even get into that. But the next one says, what is Cena's final match? I wanted to see him fight Dom, like you guys have been saying, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Dom is going to happen at Survivor Series. That'll be his second to last match. His last match, in my opinion, oh, Lord. Again, there are so many possible opportunities here. It could be a young kid that needs the rub, or it could be one of his oldest rivals that he just finally usurps. Personally, I would like to see it be Brock. That's just me. I would love to see it be Brock Lesnar.
The last one says it is too bad the WWE released Scarlett and Karrion Kross because they could have had an awesome feud with Vega and Black now.
Oh my God, right? I was thinking the exact same thing. But as soon as they started that, I was like, oh, okay, so we fired Karrion and Scarlett and just told Alistair to take his gimmick now, huh? I was like, God dang. You guys act as if Karrion has no talent. This man is killing it on the indies, too. You're going to regret losing that guy. I'm going to tell you right now. You really will. But those are just my thoughts. I am a peon.
We'll have our boy KG tomorrow talking wrestling. Plus, I believe he's going to be doing he'll be out there with Houchin doing a blood bank later this week. We'll talk about that. And we're going to get in some Breeders' Cup talk.
Yes, we are. We got the Breeders' Cup coming up next weekend. We'll be talking to somebody from FanDuel. We'll be coming in to break down everything you guys need to know. Plus, maybe some bets for you guys as well if you're into horse racing. I know you can do that here in California. You definitely can. We got to get out of here for the rest of the day, though. Join us back here tomorrow, 7 to 9, as always. But here comes the great Rich Eisen, who's probably in hog heaven right now after his Jets won. Let's get out of here.